I think you're good at it. You do it.
Okay. Let's go, Mets. We are live, and the New York Mets just saved their season for the first time this year, taking 2 out of 3. It's the big bad Padres, and we are back, boys. We are back. We are back. KFC is back, taking Clemmer's seat, who, by the way, Clemmer was an absolute delight. I want to have him on the show more often.
Clemmer, let me talk to you about Chris Clemmer for a minute. He is beyond just Met stuff, movie stuff, The Dozen. I sat next to him for Barstool the Ballpark. Just a delight. I mean, he looks like a ghoul, and he's an absolute wacko weirdo, but he is one of my absolute favorite people at the company now. It's incredible.
It's genuine conversation after genuine conversation, too. Like, once you get into it with him, like, he's got such random knowledge that he just fits in all these different spots.
Totally. He's the best. I'm honored to see here on We Gotta Believe.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we'll go to the pen with him more, and we'll sprinkle in some other Mets fans around the office because I think there is something to be said about, the creatures we have at Barstool, the weird brains, as Dave calls them, and how many of them are Mets fans. I think those two things, the Venn diagrams do overlap.
Not a coincidence, bro. Let me tell you something. It's not a coincidence. I don't know if it's chicken or the egg. Do you think being a Mets fan makes you a fucking weirdo, or are the Mets fans drawn? Do they draw weirdos? You know what I mean? Like which one comes first? I don't know. I do know that being a Mets fan makes you fucking crazy, like insane and psychotic, because I can't quit defending people like Tommy Pham and defending this team. And it's not just the Mets, although that's the place where it's highlighted the most. It's just the internet, man. I don't know how I'm going to do this career for the rest of my life. I can't do it anymore. The internet ruins absolutely everything. It ruins your favorite sports. It ruins your favorite movies, your favorite TV shows, your favorite people, your favorite discussions. It ruins everything. And I've been staying away as best as I can. But, when we lose a series to the Brewers and everyone calls the whole season off, well, when we take 2 out of 3 from the Padres, who has, one of the strongest lineups fucking, ever assembled and bottomless pockets, just like Steve Cohen, when we beat them straight up head to head, are we now winning the World Series? Because we should keep that same energy, should we not? How come the wins don't count as much as the losses do?
And lest we forget, the team that, our wins didn't count against, the Marlins, just went to Philadelphia and beat the shit out of the Phillies.
Right.
They had these guys throwing hot dogs at each other. They had the fans turning on their own. It was like the hook food fight, which we did discuss. Eddie was fucking disgusted with it. And Chaps brought up, he's like, do you know how hard it is for Costco to keep the $1.50 hot dog? They gave you guys these things for $1, and you guys were throwing them like absolute savages down in Philadelphia. We know how Philadelphia fans are. I kind of loved it in a way. I feel like there is a world where the Mets fans do that in dollar hot dog night.
Philadelphia, I've said it forever. When Philly leans into being the scumbags, they are the best fan base in sports. The problem is they always want to be like, no, it's not real. It's it's a small sample size and it's a stereotype. It's like, no, it always happens every single time for a fucking reason.
The ingenuity of that guy who made himself puke on the other fan. To this day, I still say it's like the greatest fan moment of all time. That's galaxy brain shit. But listen, us Mets fans, we're crazy. We're nuts. Again, you said it, Kev, especially on the internet, everyone's bickering at each other. And then a game like yesterday quells the stuff down. Today, we have the off day, which was a double positive, double bonus. Because last night, everyone got to go to bed, didn't have to stay up, didn't have to worry about fucking the bullpen on pins and needles. Then we're on the off day. We worry about the West Coast trip when we get there. We start in Oakland, which other than last year.
Into Oakland is huge. If you get thrown into the West Coast right after a game and you got to go to like LA, it's a different story. Off day into Oakland makes a West Coast swing a lot easier, as does the pitch clock.
I mean, that is like a guaranteed. People will lose their fucking mind if we lose one game to Oakland, because their run differential was like -53. Like their best players injured, so they got nobody. You know who they got pitching for them? Jeurys Familia and Trevor May.
Oh my God. I saw the starters and everyone's in like the double digits here, right? So I'm like, this can't be. We'll do our Oakland A's breakdown with Phil, who might have to like look at his notes for this.
Wait a minute. You know we're losing 2 out of 3 now, right?
Yeah,
you know it. I called this back a couple years ago with the Pirates with that 7-game set with the Pirates. We're losing in Oakland. Book it.
But before we even have to worry about that, we get the off day tonight on Thursday. And what do you got to do in your off night? You got to get yourself your Coors Light. You get to just hang out, have yourself a nice night, go to the bars, have some people over. Our boy Pavs tonight, he's bidding adieu to his apartment. He's lived with 5 other dudes after college. So he's basically lived the college life for 2 years.
Wait, Pavs, come in here. I didn't know this. What are you doing? Where are you going? What's happening? Is he gone?
He's I'm right here. Yeah, I was away from my computer. So, yeah, I got my GameCube up here. I was just giving Clem the tour here. This is the GameCube / Mets TV. This is the Rangers / Islanders TV, Red Zone. And then this is like the main TV for whatever.
The TV over the couch is insanity.
It's insane. Yeah. So it's like 5 of us, and we're throwing our last party tonight, saying goodbye to 5 guys living with each other for 2 years now. We've basically done college.
Where are you going? What are you doing?
We're moving out. I'm going with 2 of the guys and the other 2 guys.
All right. I just want to make sure you're staying. You're too young to not be living with like a couple guy friends.
No. We're splitting apart basically. We're going to be living in the same city together still.
That's fair. I thought it was like everyone was moving in with girlfriends or something like that.
No.
You guys, you know what? Downgrading from 5 is probably a good idea. I did 4. Bro, let me tell you a quick story. I had 4 roommates, one of which was a avid cyclist who I got bamboozled into living with. My one friend who worked on Long Island, so he didn't want to live in Manhattan, but he wanted us to have a place so that he could crash there. He vouched for this guy. He was like, I went to college with him. He's awesome. He's cool. He wasn't. He sucked. But we did get this apartment with 4 dudes. Towards the very end, my one roommate just brought his girlfriend and her cat in, and she started living there. And then my other roommate, his girlfriend came for like 1 month while she was like in between leases. So it was 4 dudes, 2 chicks, and a cat crammed into a Manhattan apartment at the very end of like, at our wit's end of like, this girl's living here and she's not paying rent, and that fucking cat won't shut up, and that guy's always in his cyclist tights, and it was madness by the end of it. And as much fun as I had, I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. So 5 guys is probably the limit, and it's probably healthy for you as a human to downgrade to 3.
I mean, I've told you all the stories about the black carpet and all the other things. So it's a goodbye that needs to happen, but it's definitely gonna be a sad.
Well, make sure you crack open some ice blue Coors Lights when you do it.
Some ice blue Coors Lights.
Whether you're living with the 5 guys, whether you're saying goodbye to the 5 guys, whether you're starting with the 5 guys, whatever it may be, Coors Light is the beer for that occasion. That's for certain.
A Coors Light for every single TV in the living room. You got to pop at least 3 of them. It's cold lager, cold filtered, and cold package. It's literally made to chill, and they are a proud partner of the New York Mets. They keep the podcast lights on. What's not to love about them? The perfect companion for all things chill. So pair your plans with a nice cold Coors Light, the beer that's keeping New York chill. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Drizzly or Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/believe. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Clem, are you a 2 TV guy?
Yes, yes, Kevin, I am infamously, because I can't watch the Mets and the House of Dragon at the same time, even though I have 2 motherfucking TVs right there. Oh, there's also a bunch of clean laundry drying right now.
This is that's like your basement man cave, studio area. Like you have 1 TV in like your main TV room, like with other right?
It doesn't look good. I don't think if you're I've
never had 2 TVs, which is crazy for someone in my job, but I either just picked what I wanted to watch and I said, I don't fucking care what the rest of you think. Or like if I'm watching something, I'll put the Mets on my phone. Nowadays, you don't really need 2 TVs, but I think it's like you live with 5 guys and you have 4 TVs in your living room sort of thing. Like otherwise,
they built a shelf just for a GameCube. So like that's the one that when you don't want to watch something, you just sit in the corner and you're playing GameCube while you wait.
The fact that there will be guys playing GameCube sitting this way while the Islanders are on above them while guys are sitting that way, that's madness. You're basically just looking at each other without looking at each other the whole time in that fucking house of horrors. But as I'm getting I'm getting this new house now, and I'm like, I want it to just be like everything I've ever wanted, but it's like you can't have a fucking nice living room with 2 TVs like you're a frat boy, you know?
Yeah, I just loved it. I said, there's a reason though why college, when you leave college and you go to like 2 roommates afterwards, like normal people, or 3, not 4. Kevin, you were living in a sitcom. It sounds like there was bike guy, girl, and cat.
It was a horror. It was not a sitcom.
Does Fight Snow you were living with the enemy? You were living with a cyclist? I said, does Fight Snow you were living with the enemy?
Well, let me tell you another story about this guy. So what happened was we partied one Labor Day weekend as the summer wrapped up. And we were looking for a place like that September. And this long weekend, this kid was awesome. We were boozing, drinking, chicks, drinking games, the whole 9. He was great. And I was like, yeah, fuck it. Like 2 of my other best friends and this kid, let's roll. And like the first night he starts cycling and I'm like, all right, he was in really good shape. So I was like, I don't know, whatever, this guy cycles. Then he breaks out his George Foreman grill and he always cooked all he ate was grilled chicken and rice, and he cooked it over the toilet on top of the back of the toilet in the bath. And he said our kitchen was like a hallway kitchen and it didn't get good ventilation. He wasn't wrong, but he was like, the bathroom gets better ventilation. I was like, okay, dude. But I knew I was in trouble when he was very healthy and in really good shape. And I was like, fuck it, let me try to ride this wave a little bit. I was like, how about I will pay for your food. He was notoriously cheap too. He was a guy who would put like toothpaste on the Excel spreadsheet and split it 4 ways. Like you would see like 63 cents on your Excel bill for the month. And somehow he was paying like $800 and I was paying like $1,400. It was bullshit. But I was like, how about you get some extra chicken and you cook it for both of us. I'll pay for all of it. You don't have to pay for your food. I'll pay for your chicken and mine. I just don't like to cook, so you just make it for me, and then I'll eat it, and maybe I'll eat healthy if this guy makes it for me. And he was just like, nope. And I was like, but no, you don't get it. Like, I'll pay for all of it, not just my share. So you're eating for free. And he was like, nah, man, still. And I almost had to respect it. There was no good reason for him not to want to do that. All he had to do was throw like 2 more kebabs on the grill, and he was just like, nah. I was like, okay. And that was before I knew that he was just the fucking worst. So
I thought you were going to say that's before I knew he was cooking it over the toilet. I don't know what's more wild, the fact that he turned it down or the fact that he wanted
toilet chicken. You're going to pay for toilet chicken. That's Wilpons Kevin. New Kevin wouldn't do that now. There's a fucking promise to you right there.
Toilet chicken, man. Unbelievable. Man. I miss that shit though. Those days of living in like, because we also were lucky enough that like we were making enough money and we found a good enough place. The TikToks you see today of people who are paying like $3,000 for like, you know, a fucking tenement. It just wasn't like that for us, and not like anybody that I knew. I mean, unless you're fucking broke. But I think if you're broke, you should go to the outer boroughs and just live there and live like a human. So if you want to like pay for one of these, you know, tenements, that's up to you. But we had like a nice. Everybody had their own room. It wasn't any conversion bullshit. We had a skylight. Like it was great, man. That to me, that was the funnest times I ever had in my life was 22 to 26, living like in that sort of situation with all those guys. It was great.
Oh, that's fucking beautiful, man. And again, Pabs, enjoy it. Get yourself the Coors Lights. And I could go on a whole thing about GameCube being underrated as a system because it was between the 64 and the Wii, which are absolute smashes. And there's just plenty of great memories in the GameCube. And the fact him and Phil both love their game. Both have GameCubes set up at their houses. I mean, shit. I mean, those are the youngs, Kevin. The olds are the ones who give me the shit about the GameCube.
You know what I learned the other day? I was talking to Joe DeRosa, who's a New York City comedian and like a diehard gaming nerd, that PlayStation was supposed to be a Nintendo product.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. And they were just so like proud about Nintendo and turned it down and completely butt-fucked themselves, because you can say what you want about GameCube being underrated, and Wii was revolutionary in the sense of that it was, you know, the first, the wand and all that shit, but PlayStation took over the game in those eras for a reason. If they just continued, I mean, there would be nobody. I don't even think Xbox would exist, because I think Nintendo would just own the game like outright. It would be like Vince McMahon WWE shit. We own fucking everybody now. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Let's get back to the Mets because I know the nerds are going to be mad at me for talking about non-Met stuff.
Yeah. They basically created their own competitor because they got right to the end and then they're like, oh, we don't want to do the disc. We're going to stay with the cartridges. And so it's like, we did all the work. Fuck it. We'll just sew slowly on it and we'll sell it and change the world. So, so back to the Mets world though. Boys, it's been a while now because obviously I can't believe this was 3 days ago. Max Scherzer came out. Shut them out. We beat you. We had the two most mind-bending fucking plays. The luck gods finally woke their asses up. Welcome to the fucking season, you dickheads. Yeah. Where were you guys to start the year? Yep. Where were you in Milwaukee, first and foremost? But get that win. That was kind of, established the momentum, made you feel good about the team. Lose a tough one, game 2, and then obviously game 3, beautiful sunny day. Tyler McGill comes out.
You absolutely knew they were scoring in the 9th after giving up that bomb in the 8th. Like it's just written in the stars sometimes with the Mets, whether they're good, bad, or ugly. You knew they were going to get what should have been the tying run across the plate in the 9th inning there. But yeah, I mean, that Max start was altogether like a grind. But at the end of the day, like just 5 or 6 innings? I don't remember. Shutout innings where it was like
5 innings.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't a breeze. But then you look up at the fucking, the box score, and it's like Max did exactly what he needs to do. But listen, the highlight of the whole series, those 2 infield singles, Meek, you watch every baseball game humanly possible. You can live to 115 and watch as much baseball as you do every day right now from today till you're dead. You will never see that happen again.
Never.
I am confident that the chances of that ever happening again are like 1 in 7 trillion. 2 infield singles, 1 bunt, 1 swing single, like just in the same exact spot, in the same exact way, in the same inning, 2 and I think a 3 batter span. You will never see that again. To me, that's what I like about baseball, like the weird shit like that, the quirky stuff. As much as I say you'll never see that again, you'll see something else just as weird, in tomorrow's game. Mm-hmm. It's just no game is ever the same, no at-bats ever the same. But I guess it really is like, there's guys who go out there pregame and roll balls up the line for a reason because the groundskeepers do it differently and the chalk is different every game. So, they do take note of it for a reason because that stuff happens. But 2 in that amount of time is wild.
It's absurd.
They said they were using like lasers to make sure that it was level too. Like the grounds crew goes that into depth with it. Cause I was thinking it's like Baltimore chop, right? They used to make the front of the plate in Baltimore like concrete because those guys couldn't hit and they'd hit choppers off of it to get base hits and shit. And they let the grass grow a little bit longer. Yep. But they were like, no, like it is fully regulation. It just so happens that they both rolled exactly the same way.
Like when they did that, zoom in, it's like it didn't hit like a rock or a big chunk of chalk, or it just stayed. Maybe because it was so level, it just stayed. I don't know. That was crazy. I mean, it was important too. Like kept the rally going, led to runs. It wasn't just like throwaway base hits. That is the sort of shit that we saw all year long last year. Like for 162 games. Again, all the more reason why people should have enjoyed last year, not only because of the wins, but because of all the good juju and the good luck that, early on in the season this year hasn't really been fully there. We got it in spades against the Padres.
Yeah, and we're already, and they had their stretches obviously last year where it was the case, but it's the runners in scoring position is driving us crazy right off the bat this year. We have the bases loaded, no outs, and just watch them not cash in.
Hear me out though, like it's the most frustrating thing, except for just not having chances at all. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I get it. Like you have to cash in, otherwise it's worthless. But when you are setting the table constantly, like eventually those base hits are going to come through. Those big bops are going to come through. So I do have faith in that. Like that's just a numbers sample size type thing where like, if you keep loading the bases, it's a good thing. Okay. I get it. It's frustrating, but there are offenses out there that can't even, muster that up. So I think it's also a positive thing that there's so much contact and activity and getting on base and stealing bases and all that sort of shit that we know this team was succeeded with last year and was built around.
Who replaced Chavez as the hitting coach? Because I know he's on the bench now.
I think it's Jeff Albert from the Cardinals. So I think
I would feel like he was gonna. If this continues, they're gonna be like, put Chavez back as the because again, that's shuffling the deck. The chairs on the deck and all that kind of stuff. But at the same point, like
as if Chavez is still not helping people with hitting.
Right.
Yeah, he's no longer talking about hitting anymore, guys. Yeah, we need the title next to his name on the internet to say hitting coach.
It did perfectly highlight though that like Pete and Lindor both didn't come through in those big situations, and it's like. Those are the guys that always come through when we win. Like, that's the entire reason we won yesterday. And, like, they didn't hit the ball once, and people are trying to hang it on Alvarez. I'm like, what do you want them to do? They need some help.
I get that. But when they're like, if Pete and Lindor don't hit, we don't win. It's like, no fucking kidding.
Right.
If your two best hitters, if every single team's two best hitters don't hit, they're probably going to lose the game. And, yes, there are some amazing franchises out there where like the Astros and the Dodgers can have, their 7, 8, 9 hitters carry a team through it's very fucking rare that if your all-star shortstop and first baseman go quiet, so does your team. We used to say it all the time, as Reyes goes, so the Mets go. Like there are certain players on certain teams who are so valuable and so always in the mix. And then when they don't perform, you don't win. And that's, it's like, oh, my God, when LeBron doesn't play well, the Lakers don't win. No fucking kidding. It's just how sports works. I get you can't be too top heavy, but also, those are the guys. They're the reasons you win. It goes both ways.
And I almost feel like whenever Escobar does something, we win. Because it's like, all right, we didn't get a 0 from that spot. And again, Escobar, I think we learned this last year. He's a streaky guy. And maybe he's washed too. That's the other side of it. When these guys turn 34 and whatever, and they get up in the 30s, you start worrying about, like, I know I've fallen off a cliff in the last few years, just mentally. God. I couldn't imagine doing all this stuff physically as well, the mental side of it. So, but with him, I mean, at this point, for what we've seen, I haven't seen the splits how many times he's gone. I convinced myself Righty Escobar was a perfectly fine player last year. I don't even know if that was the case. I also do think he's a streaky player, which we didn't know his first year in New York. What are we on? Like, I'll ask Phil. Phil, when do you want to see Beatty? Do you want to see Beatty here yesterday, basically, at this point?
Yes. Just put simply, the best way to describe Eduardo Escobar, he's this year's Robinson Cano, where the old vet, everyone loves, everyone's rooting for on the team. But deep down, they know this guy can't play anymore. And you have a guy playing third base in AAA that can take his job very easily.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, actually.
I wouldn't go as far as that because I think some people forget just how bad Robinson Cano was. I mean, I know Escobar hasn't been good, but still had a couple moments to me, in the early going, if you have a couple moments with a big home run or a go-ahead RBI or whatever, like, you've provided worth and value to this team, but over the long haul, we know, like, I don't think it's been atrocious with Escobar the way it was with Cano. The people who are like targeting Tommy Pham, who like right now is like performing well above what I think any bench player should. Like sometimes I think we get fixated on these players that really aren't the key to the whole thing. But, your everyday starting third baseman is a very important player. And I think if we didn't have Beatty, it would be like, I don't know, one of our weaker spots on the team happens to be third base. But when you do have Beatty, there's really just no reason to not at least call him up, give it a shot, see what happens.
It doesn't help matters where like every night he's going 3 for 5. Like, I don't know if you saw the home run he hit to center, but it wasn't even like a poorly thrown pitch. He just got his hands inside the ball and fucking crushed it. Yeah. And then you're looking at this guy who's like, I pulled up the number for the World Baseball Classic too. He hit a 105 in spring training. He's hitting 100 right now, and he hit 100 in the World Baseball Classic. And it's like, he's the model of consistency of shit right now, and there's nothing you can really do to say against it. But it's also, I don't know if you guys are seeing the narrative of like, Buck doesn't like the young guys. Why doesn't he like Beatty? Why aren't they bringing him up? Like he did the same thing with Jeter and Machado and like all this stuff. I think if it's his call and he knows that that's the one piece that's missing in the lineup,
right,
he'd be up here. People make it seem like he's going to cut off his nose to spite his face. Like, no, he's looking over there. If it's a massive hole, I'm sure he'd bring him up.
I think Buck has always shown he's like pretty progressive and like not stubborn. I'll also say this though, like everybody clamors for it, and then Alvarez comes up and looks totally overmatched.
Yep.
So like everybody flipped out Why is Nito starting? Where's Alvarez? And then, I'm not too down on him because I think everybody deserves a chance to adjust and whatever. But like in big spots, he is shook. Like he is visibly. And I was talking to Pabs about this. I don't know. I think it might be a New York thing. We'll get to the Darren Ruff article a little bit later in the show, talking about just the state of New York fans. But like we're looking at like the guy, we always talk about the Dodgers and the Astros, and these guys come up and they fill right in, they step right in, and they're fine and they're great and they're loose and they look confident and they just play. And Alvarez is like one of these guys who's the number one prospect and should be as confident as any ball player ever. He can take the field and be like, it's going to be a rough road to start, but I'm going to be fucking awesome because I am. And I look at him and he just looks so scared, and he strikes out and he like marches back to the dugout. Like he's like, let me get me off this field as fast as I can. And I'm probably reading into things and some of it is, I'm pretending to like know body language, but it does not look like a guy who was like, loosey-goosey, ready together. I mean, obviously not a single ball in the strike zone. Some of those pitches though were like, they were high, but and a better veteran lays off them, but they weren't like egregious. They were like high fastballs that I think were, I think a lot of young players would kind of get.
I mean, the fourth pitch, if you look, he's like 5'8" and it's at his eyeballs.
Yeah,
that's what are we doing here? Because Hader's on the roof, he can't figure out where the ball's going.
But Hader was all over the place.
Right.
I mean, that was, Phil was saying in the group chat the whole time, put the bat on your shoulders, and that guy walks in 2 runs.
Yep. Mark Canna got hit by a pitch and struck out. Like,
that was not but that's what I mean. Like that dude went up there. And I probably, if he was doing this, I almost like the aggression of like bases loaded. I'm going to have my signature moment. But, baseball is a game where sometimes being juiced up is not a good thing. Like that's where you should have read the moment and put the bat on the fucking shoulder. But I just don't know if it's the pressure or whatever. But sometimes I see these guys and they look like deer in headlights. And I don't know how to capture what it looks like. And it's probably just grass is always greener sort of shit. And I'm sure other teams and players go through it, but it does look like these guys come in sometimes and are like, holy shit, the moment is very big.
I'm going to spin zone the Francisco Alvarez experience so far because, again, we all thought he was going to have that moment in the Braves series, which obviously he kind of had his hater moment in those as well. How many times would the guy come up, have his moment, and would be like, well, we found our guy, and he ended up sucking? You know what? Alvarez, this is the sign of a future Mets superstar. We're finally getting our superstar, and it's because he's not getting his moment too early.
Right, that home run on the first pitch you see. We've got the next Ichiro. No, I'd rather the guy who strikes out 10 times. I feel like Francisco Alvarez has come up with the bases loaded 75% of his MLB career. It's insane, and he strikes out every single time. And it's no coincidence that the big run he drove in the other day was like a opposite field, like base knock, or he just got the bat on the ball. Right. So it's like, it will come, but these guys, people just love prospects and love potential. And then when you put them in and it doesn't work, then what, So, but I think I'm all for the young guys. Bring them in. I don't give a fuck about service time and clocks. I cannot believe that any modern franchise still worries about 1 extra year or 6 extra months. 2, I certainly can't believe that this franchise would care about it. So bring them in, and then if they stink, send them back down. Why not experiment like that? I know that's probably not how they do things, and you don't want to yo-yo guys and all that shit, but fucking, give them the confidence that, hey, come up, give it a shot. If it doesn't work, that's okay. This is a process. It'll be fine, blah, 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 blah. Do whatever you got to do to make them feel comfortable in the spot.
I was going to say with Alvarez, if he's only playing 2-3 days a week, he might as well just be in AAA then. Just call up an actual backup catcher if we're not going to play him. It's better that he's playing every day down there than just on the bench.
I do get that, but so people really focused in on that first weekend, when he first got called up. And I genuinely think you don't know the ins and outs of what's going on. first of all this was predicated upon an injury. So this was not in the books at all. If, he wasn't going to be here, period. It was going to be Narvaez and Nido. So he gets injured. So that right there, all of a sudden you find out he's out 8 to 9 weeks on an injury that looked like he was going to maybe just finish the game.
He said he caught it early too.
yeah, right. So like that's the first thing. Number two, like you don't know if it's like what the situation is. Like what did they tell Nido? What is Nido's expectations for this year? What if they said to him like, Nido, you're gonna do XYZ, and now it's like, well, we can't just yank that away from him and give it to the kid because we've made certain promises or we have a certain game plan with this guy. You also got to look at like who was pitching. Do you really want Alvarez coming up and catching the ghost fork ball that fucking Nido was struggling with all day? Look at the lineup he was going up against. The pitching was like all of that shit that the average fan just goes, put it Alvarez. And it's like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. And, I don't know, for all you know, I think he has, I don't know how many more reps at AAA matter for him. I think when he's in AAA, he fucking crushes. I think what if you find out that what Francisco Alvarez needs to learn how to like emotional and be around the pitching staff and like that. I don't know these things. I'm just putting out hypotheticals where it's like maybe just being on the ball club and getting around the atmosphere and being a pro is more valuable than just mashing in AAA. I don't know. It's like how many more tank jobs can that guy hit?
I usually understand that more like in the second half, but like I will say some things that teams do like to look at is how a guy responds from a cold streak, whether it's in the minors or in the majors. How can they adjust to like getting their teeth kicked in? Like part of it because it happens.
It's also an ego. It's also an ego trip because if they're like, hey man, like this really wasn't for you. We knew you weren't ready. We brought you up because we had to. Like go on back down. We're gonna bring in the backup catcher now. Like that is gonna hurt his growth also. And then he's going to feel like, am I a quadruple A player? Like Kirk Neuenhuis. They used to bring him up all the time, and you'd be like, well, this guy's clearly not a major league player, but he's also not a triple A player. So, like, what is he?
Now, I mean, he is the number one prospect in all of baseball, so you would hope that this is more just growing.
He's 21.
He's a baby.
But, he's so young. It sucks to be a catcher, bro. It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else, you can come up, you can stand in the outfield, and maybe a ball comes your way. Like being a catcher / DH is you're either catching the pitching staff, which is incredibly important, or you're taking up a DH spot for a guy who can actually hit. So none of that really. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to call up a guy when you're already a winning team in an important position, and maybe he is like maybe he does need to be knocked down a peg. Maybe this is part of it is that he needs splash some cold water on. Who fucking knows? But that's why I just can't stand the people who are like, none of this makes sense. You don't know anything about this. It's like I just as I always try to do, like break it down into like everyday life. Like if we were doing things at Barstool with certain talent and it was like, why doesn't this guy have his own show? And it's like, because you don't know anything about him or his contract or the situation or whatever. Like it's a whole fucking business entity that you know nothing about. And we sit here, and I've done it my whole life too. I don't know, maybe it's something in old age or you just get tired of, trying to figure it out. It's like, just fucking watch and let the people make their decisions. When it's egregiously wrong, yes, we scream and yell about it. When it's something that like is part of the process, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I didn't bring it up last show because you weren't on, but Kev texted me on the side and he's like, I'm your Mets sponsor. I'm just reaching out to you. You got to stop fighting with people online.
I saw you were pulling at me, and I was
losing my mind because they were complaining about Alvarez not starting game 1. I was like, you have no concept of time. They brought this guy up 2 days ago. Nido was already penciled in to start the opener. I'm like, why are you making this into such an issue of Buck hates the young guys? And like, I snapped. I couldn't do it anymore. And you texted me and you're like, man, just log off.
This is just
back away.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what I'm talking about. This Alvarez has his entire career to play baseball, right? Nido is like has been good for this team and dedicated and deserves it. They tell him you're going to get the start. He gets the start because you're not going to just fuck him over for some kid because now that creates a problem with the relationship with Tomas Nido. So like why fuck that up for one game out of a billion that Alvarez is going to play in his life? It's things like that is like, if you give it one extra half a step of thought, you can understand the process. But I did see, I saw, it was like getting an out-of-body experience. Like, I was watching you have, it must have been like somebody that I follow, because I could see the replies, and it was like going at people, and I was like, this man is unhinged. He's crazy. And I was like, oh, this is what everybody thinks about me, huh?
I would say with the pitch clock, you spend more time arguing the lineups now than actually watching the game.
Right.
Release them 3 hours before the game. The games are over in under 3 hours.
And like, I'd love for Buck one day to be like, wait a second, this guy Alvarez is the #1 prospect in the whole. I'm going to start him every day now. I didn't even know. I just thought he was some random guy we picked up over the winter. I thought it was Billy.
I wish there was a way, and I thought you would think this is what really bothers me, and maybe it can just transition into the rough thing that I want to talk about. Like, you scream and yell at the team for not playing Alvarez, and then I'm sure those same people, when he struck out, were like, fuck this guy, he stinks. And it's like, you just cannot win in this town. And that article, I'm sure a lot of people didn't read it because it's behind paywall. I didn't read it either, but I got the excerpts and the screenshots. It was about Darren Ruff's time in New York. His father died right before he got traded to the Mets. His family was like so happy in San Francisco, and everything gets uprooted. He was injured, right? I think he had like surgery or needed to, he had arthritis or whatever the fuck it was. And like, you start to realize that it was the perfect storm for a trade to not work out. But not a trade of like the fucking, like when the Red Sox traded Nomar Garcia-Parra, like not like a monster trade that matters. We're talking about a regular ass trade deadline move to try to bolster a lineup that didn't work out. That has happened a billion times in baseball and will happen a billion more. And then you read about the behind the scenes shit that really humanizes this guy and makes you realize that like he probably had no shot of succeeding that second half of the year, like anywhere, because of a death in the family. And not only is it so crazy to get bent out of shape about something that happens all the time, these people who make Darren Ruff, Frank and all of his acolytes, make guys like Darren Ruff the focal point of their entire like fan existence. It's so fucked up and it's so crazy. And for Darren Ruff to be like, everybody always talks about how the media in New York is the problem. But this day and age where fans drive what the media say because you want followers and you want clicks and all that shit, whatever the dumbass fans say, the media is going to parrot. So you just get like this double whammy from two of the most bulletproof entities, the fan base and the media, that it's not going to change. And like we're talking about it with Darren Ruff. So like I said, it doesn't really matter. Good or bad, Darren Ruff was not going to make that team win the World Series that year. But when we did it with Francisco Lindor, and if we're going to do it against, Alvarez if he struggles, and if we're going to do it when Max is not, the all-world pitcher he is, and like you are actively making the team worse. That you are. It used to be like, and I hear these people like, well, Derek Jeter never that wasn't a problem for him. Those guys, the worst thing that could happen to them was they go to the ballpark and they hear someone go boo. That's it. Nowadays, it is a 24/7 constant barrage if you're on social media or off of it, because everybody talks and everybody hears things. And so like you're just like literally making their lives worse for them while you want them to perform well at work. And then you have the people who just say like, well, I don't care. They're millionaires and I'm never going to feel bad for them. And I'm just like, okay, well then like, you're just a piece of shit. If having a few $1 million in the bank, by the way, Darren Ruff, not a overly rich guy. We're not talking about someone who has $100 million contract. If he has a couple $1 million in the bank and that means that he can't struggle in life when his father fucking dies, then you are a grade A piece of shit person. So like, and as I said, people are pulling up my get the fuck off my team tweets and the things I said about Jason Vargas. So yes, I'm guilty of it. And I used to do it a lot when I was younger and a piece of shit and stupid. 2, it was a time where like social media wasn't as prevalent and in everybody's faces. And D, I don't do it anymore. So it's like, yeah, recognize that that's fucking stupid and shitty to do. And of course you can complain when people are underperforming but the flip side is like praise them when they're good. You can also find tweets of me when Jason Vargas and the Time Traveler were like the only thing that was keeping the Mets alive. So like, if you're going to be an asshole, you at least have to also give them credit. Or how about you just don't be an asshole in general and recognize that these people are humans and that you might not know all the details and you might just have a fucking shred of empathy and not out of the goodness of your heart. Just do it because it will make the team better if they don't have to deal with fucking assholes and the media like you all goddamn day. Everybody knows that the media can make or break a player, and we openly know that the fans drive the media. So ipso facto, as much as I hate to admit it, you actually have an impact on the game. So shut the fuck up. I've now been talking too much this episode, so I'm going to be quiet. Clem, you talk.
Yeah, I mean, media, it's called social media, right? So it's like that's just another form of media basically at this point. It's probably a bigger form of media because, newspapers are going out of business. It's like people go to social media to get the takes and the, articles and shit like that or whatever it may be. They're going to the podcast and everything more than they are, it seems like, to the Post or any of the other shit we used to back in the day. The Darren Ruff thing, I think Ruff got fucked because the Mets didn't make a lot of moves at the deadline and he was like the guy. Everyone hated JD Davis. They wanted him shipped out of town. There was not one person like, we can't trade JD Davis. Because remember, he was taking 93 down the pipe and just laid on it every time. And we're like, we lost this game because of JD Davis again. They ship him out. Ruff comes in. Obviously, it's a fucking disaster. Darren Ruff was meant to be the right-handed DH against lefties. Now we know you do not face lefties as much as you face righties. So Darren Ruff barely played. In fact, Darren Ruff was one of the 3 guys that showed up against the Padres, if I remember. He got hit by a pitch, he hit a single, and it was he took a walk. I was like, oh, Darren Ruff was one of our 5 best players when we got our dicks kicked in by San Diego.
Your bigger point is the correct one. Even if Darren Ruff mashed his numbers were in San Francisco, by the way, for all the analytics nerds, numbers wise, it would never made sense to trade 4 fucking players for him. But numbers wise, he was what the other side of the coin to Vogie, and it just didn't work. But even if it did, we're still going home against the Padres. It was not that big of a move. It just wasn't. If they made the move for Juan Soto and he sucked the way he did with the Padres all year and they missed the playoffs because of that, that's a different story. Darren Ruff was not worth any of your anger or your praise,
And Vogie got off to a hot start. Yeah. And now you look at him this season, everyone's like, he sucks. It's like, you guys were screaming and from the top of the clouds of how great this guy is. And he's a walk machine and he gets on base. And now it's like, all he does is walk. It's been fucking 12 games, guys.
Yeah, calm down.
Vogelback's not even playing that bad, by the way, which doesn't even make sense to me. He's literally an above average player.
It's just, I'm talking so much this episode, but I can't stop myself. Not every player is an all-star player. And I know again, to mention these crown jewel franchises who somehow find all-stars growing on trees in the Dominican and Venezuela and wherever the fuck they find them. That's not, maybe one day we'll get the scouting and the infrastructure we need to do that too. But at the current way it is, you have 4 fucking awesome players, 2 okay players and a couple bad players, and you have 2 good pitchers and an okay pitcher and 2 bad pitchers and a bullpen you throw against the wall. That's just how fucking the bell curve of a baseball team pretty much always is. Not everyone can be good.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And and getting to that infrastructure, we just saw a thing where Uncle Stevie, he's expanding his business interests in Japan, it sounds like. So going to be exploited that. Our boy Epler has, great relations in Japan as well. So if that's another way to fucking turn us into an absolute wagon, as well as just a franchise that plays big in a place where 97% of the TVs are watching the World Baseball Classic. So if we get a big presence in Japan, that's huge. That's huge. And I also wanted to say this too, because I've seen Nito take some people either you guys don't rip on Nito because he's a friend of the program or because he's a back. Nito is perfectly fine for what he is. He's exactly what it was last season. Tomas Nito. The Mets have gone, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 4-3 in their last 7. Nito has not lost a game in that 7. That's all I'm going to say. Alvarez lost, and then Navarez lost. That's all I'm going to say is that Tomas Nito has not lost a game in 4 games. So I'm going to go fucking wins on you, catcher wins. Because, again, I do think catching makes a difference in terms of that. I don't think he's the reason they've won at all. I just want to say, like, let's all just settle the fuck down about the guy who's batting 9th in our lineup, whether it's Nito or Alvarez.
One of my favorite comments, people are like, oh, his lineup really drops off after 7. It's like, there's not fucking
Yes, like when your lineup drops off after 5, I get it. When you're worried about your 8 and 9 hitter, even your 7, 8, 9, that there's the 3/3 of a lineup, the top, the middle, and the bottom. And the bottom always sucks. It always has. It's just there's just not enough good baseball players in the world because this sport is fucking.
It wasn't helping that Canna kept coming up 5th, and you're like, God damn it, why is Jeff McNeil batting behind him? And it's like, well, because there's a lefty pitcher. So I think that they should play around with retooling just the lineup in general to like spread out the fact that Lindor and Peter batting back to back. Like maybe they want to play around with that a little bit more if they're going to be the guys driving in everybody. Like maybe put them up when there's other people on base and they could drive in runs. Like I don't know what that would look like. I do think McNeil needs more at bats though. Like the fact that he's batting 6, I'm like, what are we doing?
I feel like you have Nimmo, Marte, and McNeil to get on and Lindor and Pete to get him in. And I feel like those are 3 guys who you can kind of jumble it around. And maybe it's not like exactly where they've always batted. Yeah. Jeff McNeil will bat wherever you put him. He is a gift from God. He is a unbelievable hitter, dude, and like no ego, no nothing. He'll just bat wherever the fuck you put him. So do that. And I feel like Nimmo and Marte are similar players where you can just like plug and play. I think there's enough that you can juggle it up. Oh, and by the way, Nito is awesome. He's a very cool dude and a friend of the program. So yeah, we like him. Fuck you. Yeah, I'm biased. Fuck you.
I'm gonna do.
If you know people, again, humanize these people. If they're cool, we like them. He is. Suck my dick.
And we have to do this every year because you forget it until you see it. For the people on YouTube who can see, the lineup just changes every single year. When you look at opening day lineup from any season, you're like, holy fuck, that was just from last year. Last year's lineup opening day. Starling Marte, JD Double Davis at DH, Lindor, Pete, Escobar, Cano, Canna, McNeil, McCann. By the end of the season, McNeil was up, Canna was up, Cano was fucking off the team on like 4 different teams. McCann, we were begging to be off the,
James McCann, who hit cleanup for the Baltimore Orioles yesterday, by the way.
And for the Mets fans that are complaining about the cleanup hitting and stuff like that, tell me you were not around for the 2015 season without telling me you weren't around. When John Mayberry motherfucking Jr. was batting cleanup for us, and we still somehow made the World Series that year. Granted, it was because of our pitching.
You know what we should do? I think we should make a T-shirt with the 2015 opening day lineup on it. And it's like, you're a real one. If you know it's Eric Campbell and John Mayberry Jr. and all those guys, because those are the people who know. Because you know what, man? We're pushing a decade ago. That's a long time ago, 2015. Yeah. That's enough that it's that's crazy to me.
And what else is not getting enough like people talking about? Our bullpen, knock on wood, has been phenomenal. David Robertson, I wish we would have got him last season because now we know what we would have had in him. But 6 innings, 6 1/3, 3 hits, no walks, 8 Ks, 0.47 whip, and 2 saves. That guy is coming into a spot that's a no-win situation by trying to fill in for Diaz. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm just going to do what I've done my entire career.
Can we just get credit yesterday for something? How in the 7th inning with Juan Soto up as the go-ahead run at the plate, Buck just uses David Robertson, his best reliever, in the biggest spot.
Yep.
And he had the meeting with the relievers after Diaz went down. It's like, it's going to be closer by committee. I'm going to pick guys to go where I think they should go. And he's done it well.
Clem, did you announce your new guy in the bullpen?
So, all right. So, yeah, we announced. So I asked Clemmer before I did. I said, Clemmer, you have to choose a guy now that you're going to be on the podcast. And he chose him as his guy. So I said, well, I was going to choose him as my guy. The other 2 approved it. They greenlit that I could change, hop off my guy, Drew. If not, I'll stay. But I almost think Curtis is almost the guy of the podcast. I feel like he's our guy now. 2S
Curtis with the Hollywood Hogan is awesome. He is awesome. Like the fact that there's just a whole new cast of characters, as much as I hate bullpens and as much as they legitimately have scarred me as a human all my life, the fact that every year we just like have this new cast of characters and like you pray to God they're good, and some of them are drinking Busch Light and some of them are fucking wearing shark necklaces, and you got Curtis with 2 S's. They're always just like the weird birds. And when it works, when they work out and they're good, Now my wheels are spinning. Since I was so devastated, I was like, the bullpen's going to stink. Diaz is going to be the reason why we don't win. Now, like you said, knock on wood, that's proven to be totally wrong. But now I'm thinking, imagine if you added Diaz to that. Imagine if all those guys, you had these guys pitching in the 5th and 6th and 7th because you had Diaz in the 8th and 9th. Like, what could have been? Fucking World Baseball Classic.
Every time Robertson looks good, I still think that guy would have been an unbelievable setup guy. And then you're bumping out Avino back, you're moving Smith back, Curtis. The extra S? It's almost like the Jeff D. Lowe. We have to come out with the extra S is like strike these motherfuckers out or something like that. Like every game, the extra S stands for. And it's such like a minuscule thing, but all Mets fans have just been hanging on that extra S, which I love our fucking group of misfits. I also wish Dennis. There's something about Santana. Just seeing on the back of the jersey, I want him to be good. He's not going to be good, I don't think. But you go, Santana, boom. Like that would be a sick entrance song.
I get, seeing Santana across the back. When Johan came here, that was like one of the greatest moments of my life. Even seeing Reyes on the back as well. It's a lot of like, feelings that come out with this bullpen. But the same way we say it's early for all the, any of the bad stuff, it's also like the bullpen is not about April. Bullpen's about when you've all pitched like 75 innings and you got to get through the rest of the season. And, it's none of these guys are like, the bullpen is just so funny. I feel like I want like Jeff Pearlman or Bill J, one of these baseball nerds. I want an entire book on the bullpen.
The bullpen. That should just be the name of it.
It's like, you'd all be starters. Like you're all just failed fucking starters in one way or another. And you're all like superstitious and you all have so much pressure. It's just one of the weirdest jobs in the world. One of the weirdest things in sports, the bullpen. I hate it, but there is something intriguing about it too.
Even the name, the bullpen, is like so awesome. What do they want to call it? The arm farm or something like that? The bullpen. I have that's going to be a t-shirt. The bullpen is about vibes. Like you can tell me numbers and everything. It's like, I just feel good when this guy's on the mound. I don't feel good when this guy, Edwin Diaz. I was thinking about this in the shower today. I don't know if any player on the Mets, let alone in all baseball, if like Diaz retired today, has like the wildest run with a fan base from when he got here to when he ended here, where he was like the most we were like, all right, well, we got him. We traded Kalenic. It sucks we traded him, but at least we got Diaz. And at that point, we thought Cano was just going to be an anchor on this books, which he would have been if the Wilpons were still owners like they were when the trade was made. And then by the end, he was the most beloved member on a 101 win team. We were fucking doing trumpets. We were celebrating him. And it's just been an unbelievable ride. Today on the way to school, I had AJ has his own playlist on my iPhone, and Narcos on it, and it came on, and boy, let me tell you, the fucking emotional roller coaster you go when you hear Narco in 2023 after that injury. It fucking devastated me, man. That and Hall & Oates are like, I can't listen to either because it just brings up bad juju in my stomach.
Do you want to hear a story about your kids and baseball? So I cannot believe he said this, dude. I would have given anything to have this on camera. Keegan's first baseball practice was yesterday. I've tried to put his cleats on. His feet grew like 5 sizes the last couple months. We don't have any cleats. The baseball field is right near a little shopping center. So I was like, we're going to go early, but we're going to be late, but we got to go. I'm going to get you some cleats and we'll go. So as I'm rushing, trying to get him ready, as he's got to measure his foot because I don't know what his size is now. It's a whole clusterfuck, but he's wearing a Mets hat and a Captain America Mets shirt. That's another thing. I got one more story after this. And the guy's making small talk with him, and he says, who's your favorite player on the Mets? Keegan doesn't watch like that yet. He doesn't know. He doesn't watch at all. I'm trying to get him into it. He knows about the Mets. I tell them when they win. Maybe with the pitch clock, he'll be able to sit down and watch right now, but he's like too much ADD. I got him a Lindor jersey, so I tried to jump in. I was like, you like that guy Lindor, right? And he was like, yeah. And then he goes, the conversation kind of died, and we were going to move on, and he goes, I like the guy who it's all of his, the guy who bought him. He said Steve Cohen. He said the owner. What fucking 5-year-old says their favorite baseball player is the baseball owner? I was like, this is insane. I part of me hated it, part of me loved it. I was like, I talk about Steve Cohen so much that my 5-year-old said he's his favorite baseball player.
He ain't wrong. I'll tell you, he's my favorite guy on the Mets.
Yeah, I know. He didn't know how to say owner, so he said something like the guy who bought everybody. And I was like, what? And he was like, the team. He owns the team. I was like, I was like, Mom, I'm so proud of you. Infrastructure. But it was all because when we went to Barstool, the ballpark. Clem, you saw me. I came to my seat with 2 huge brown bags. I bought 10 different hats, a Lindor authentic jersey, a mini bat, a baseball. I got my daughter a pink zip-up Mets hoodie and a teddy bear. I got a Spider-Man that's holding a Mets blanket. I was like, I gotta bribe these motherfuckers to make sure they are Mets fans. So I'm coming home like Santa Claus today. So that was why he had a Captain America Mets like hybrid shirt that they were selling. I was like, give me all of that shit. I need everything I can get. But man, to say when your son says Steve Cohen is his favorite player, you're either doing something very right or very wrong. I don't know.
Hey man, I'm gonna say like more than half the happiness I feel these days, I feel like is because of Cohen. Because I know this team would not look the same, and we would not be getting the wins we'd be getting if the Wilpons were still around. So Good answer. Good answer. Good answer, Keegan. Good answer. And for any parents out there of young kids, like AJ would kind of say he likes the Yankees to bust my chops. Sienna says she loves the Eagles. They just like busting my chops. Whatever it is, what it is. I took them to the Mets game last year. AJ saw that fucking apple rise and he goes, I'm a Mets fan. And then I spent like $50 on concessions. He had ice cream. Anytime there was a lull, we just threw food in his mouth. He associates that like sugar rush with the Mets. And then, you spend $25 on a apple pillow at the store and he's a Mets fan for life. Like it's not, he's like, Dad, I want to wear Mets stuff today. I want to go outside and play. He has to, if he goes outside and plays baseball, he has to wear his Lindor's jersey and a blue pants and he has to do it right. So there is a way, especially if you're like Kev and you're fighting someone else who's trying to make them a Yankee fan or another kind of fan, just take them to a ball game. I took him to the center field wiffle ball spot. They hit a couple balls. They run the bases. Mama Meek told me if you're a City Card member, you could still run the bases after the game on Sundays. You get them on that field and fucking it's autopilot from there on out. I promise.
I legitimately might have to sign up for a fucking credit card just to make that happen.
Yeah.
That's so annoying, but fuck.
Dude, we signed up for credit cards to get like a blanket at Shea when it was like 30 degrees and windy in September. And it's my credit score's fine.
The game ends and you like go down to the field or you have to like sign up or something.
No, there's a line like on one of the gates and then they let you onto the field.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do anything ahead of time. You just go.
Not back in the day when I did it, you didn't have to. Then COVID, they shut it down. I have to see what it's done. I feel like 2023 is a lot easier. So I'll take a look into it. I'll let you know. I don't know if the people on the podcast know if they're looking to do it, but we did it at the Hudson Valley Renegades too. And AJ had a cape he bought from there and he was just fucking like on cloud nine. Again, I'm not only trying to make him a Mets fan, I'm trying to make him a baseball fan. It's tough. Like you said, there's so much like they're in the video games, they're in everything they have, they can get instantly. And then it's just like, let's watch a guy scratch himself for 5 minutes. Hopefully the pitch clock helps with that. But he only would watch.
You need to see a home run.
Yes.
If you bring your kid to a ball game and he sees a home run and hears the crowd and all that shit, I don't care what you like. It could be the year 3000. There's just something like inside of humans. I think that the crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, watching a ball fly that far, it's just the ultimate like, ooh, ah, wow. Like, I'm praying that I can get a long ball when I take him.
The first time you see that grass too, man, I lived around grass my whole life. I live in fucking Winterfell. All there is grass up here. And every time I see the grass, I'll be like, oh, as if I've never seen green grass before, man. It's crazy.
Giant. I didn't get the hoopla about the scoreboard. I was like, I don't know. It's pretty big. There's a lot of big scoreboards. The other one was already pretty big. And then I saw it in person. I was like, oh my God, this thing's like the Death Star. It's fucking insanely big. It's just a lot of like, holy shit, especially when you're, 5-year-old, everything looks big to you.
Yeah. So that's why Uncle Stevie is his favorite baseball player, because he's making things better. I can only imagine if Cohen had to if the Mets were still in Shea and they had to make a new ballpark, Cohen's ballpark would have been out of this world. So he's just going to fix the Wilpons.
One day he'll do it from scratch probably, and it'll be fucking, a palace.
Yep.
I mean, look what they just did in the outfield with that speakeasy. They let some media members or whatever into it behind the scenes, and there's an old Mr. Met picture on the wall, and you say "Let's go Mets," and it makes the wall open, and then you walk through this tunnel to the speakeasy. Wow. It's sick, and they all have their own tablets on the seating section in front of you to tell you who's batting, what their stats are, the whole rundown.
That's cool. See what the problem. The problem that Major League Baseball ran into was when they tried to make it an attraction, which I get you have to do in the modern day, they almost like ignored baseball. You got to do it hand in hand. Like, when people are paying like $75 for sushi or waiting and missing half the game for like a filet burger, that to me is like, why then go to a nice restaurant, go to a sushi spot, Yeah. But if the speakeasy has like an incredible like amount of information about the game and you could watch it and like it goes hand in hand with the actual product on the field, then I'm all for it. Because ordinarily it's like, who needs a fucking speakeasy? Just go to the game. But if it's like, if you go in there though, you see every replay and every stat and you get this and that. And, and it's also cool because you went into some secret chamber. Like, then I'm all about it. Let's do as much shit like that as we can. Because the more you do that, the more families come and the more people come and the more money comes. It's all a good thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things. Like I know they said, like I think the Mets have like the biggest family clubhouse for the players in like at least American sports. I don't know about soccer and shit like that. Like that's going to help get free agents as well. And then so the fans are happy, the players are happy, and then that just becomes a big cycle. Again, as long as the media and social media doesn't poison us along the way. However, we will not be in Citi Field for a little while here. The fucking West Coast trip came early this season, which I feel like is okay. Like my brain hasn't truly adjusted to baseball as is. I did do a quick look ahead this series. So we start in Oakland, 9:40 first game, which is always a W, right? This could be over before midnight, hypothetically speaking, with the new rules. Then 2 4:00 games over the weekend. Mwah, fucking beautiful.
So many day games, no?
It feels like a lot. Yeah,
it definitely feels that way.
At least first half of the season, they're going to do that, I think. And then they might go.
Is that like an initiative? Like they said, let's do it differently?
No, it's because we've had the Brewers home opener and then our weekend games. We had the 4:10 game, opening day.
I feel like there's been like 2 or 3 like 1 p.m. day games. Maybe it's the openers though, I guess.
I mean, the Brewers.
A couple times where I come up for air out of the studio and I realize this is the 7th inning of a game. I'm like, holy fucking shit.
I remember Jeff D used to have a joke. It's like, do the lights at Citi Field not work? Because every day he'd walk in and Frank screamed about the game.
So it's Oakland, then the Dodgers, a couple of 10-10 games out there, then the day game, and then Giants 9:45, 10:15, 4:05, 7. So those, I believe, I quit road trip, West Coast road trips. You quit extra innings, Kev, and they've kind of fixed them both by making it quicker.
I've come back around. Like I can't sit at a quit extra innings anymore. Like They made a move to bring me back in. Like smart play. West Coast is still. I wouldn't blame you if you still just rebuked the West Coast.
I'll have it on if I wake up when I wake up. But again, if these are going to be 2 hours and change instead of like a 4-hour game, and Kyle's up at 3 a.m. watching Dom Smith drop a fly ball, like I do not want to be there for that, or the Edwin Diaz Chernobyl game, as I call it to this day. So we have the A's here coming up. The only real note I have on this, because I don't know anything about the A's, is this a must win for Cookie? If he doesn't win or at least fucking deal, like at some point you just I don't know who else we could throw in because all our replacements are in the rotation. But is it like when Verlander comes back, Cookie's the odd man out? Do you think that's fair to say?
Here's the thing they're talking about. They want to have a 6-starter make a start next Wednesday to give everyone else, like the old guys, an extra day. So that 6 starter is going to either be Jose Butto or Joey Lucchesi, unfortunately, versus the Dodgers.
Let's go, Joey Fuego.
Sure.
With that, and as it comes to Cookie, if his start is versus the A's Saturday, his next start will be versus the Giants. So these are 2 different lineups that we have to deal with.
Yeah, and he did not look good against the Marlins both times.
6 when I don't even think we have 5. I mean, Cookie is. I think I actually consulted him on social media.
I think we all kind of did. Like we're
but I'm saying I think I don't know if I said it in the chat or if I said it publicly. But
you said on Twitter. I remember
Easter.
That.
It was an Easter. It was called Communion Wafer on Carrasco on Easter.
That's just banned.
By the way, that stat about the Mets on holidays, and I had a gut feeling. We all know about Mother's Day. We've talked about that for many years. And then as Easter happened, I was like, I'm pretty sure they've ruined Easter a lot as well. It's Easter, it's Mother's Day, it's Memorial Day, it's Labor Day,
Father's Day, Independence Day. It's every single day except for opening day.
Labor Day, like and I think it was like they're 11 and 22 or 11-24 or something like that on holidays. Like that is just go enjoy time with your family. Just pack it up. Don't even fucking watch them on holidays. It's not worth your time.
It's absolutely bananas. Phil, give me a quick rundown on the 2023 Oakland Athletics. And again, we will not overlook them because they essentially like started the end of our season during that Jacob deGrom, which by the way, Jacob deGrom the other day on SportsCenter, they had his line. It said 7 innings, no walks, 9 Ks, and he got the W. They just left out earned runs. And I'm like, is there a little bit of Mets posturing here where they don't want to see? He gave up 2 runs, and that's I'm on to you. Buster Olney probably is the one who came up with that idea.
Of course he did. There's only one player in the Oakland A's I think you know who he is. It's Jesus Aguilar. I don't think you can name a single other player in this lineup. There's Esther Ruiz, who stole like 100 bases in the minors. That's who they got for Sean Murphy. Ramon Laureano, who took steroids. He's probably their best hitter. Brent Rooker.
I know Seth Brown. He was on my fantasy.
He's on the lineup today, but you know who he is.
He's hurt. Okay, he's hurt, so I do not know Seth Brown.
Levis Diaz, who played for the Astros. I have no idea who Kevin Smith is. I have no idea who Carlos Perez is.
That is a fake
He made Clerks.
In the show. That's just crazy. Kevin Smith is just a made-up name, blacked out, avatar picture on MLB.com.
It is giving vibes of like Mets are playing some team and they call up some random minor league player to pitch against them, and then you're like, well, no hit, 1 hit. Fuck.
I'm telling you, that has been the way, and it will never change. We are getting at least one game will be 6 innings, 1 hit from their starter.
And they have a guy named Chad Smith in the bullpen too, so just another like NPC. Shea Langoliers, who they got from Matt Olson, who's not that good. I'm not gonna say not that good. He's just not good yet. And Nick Allen, another generic name.
Who's your closer?
I don't know. Jeurys Familia, Trevor May. I can't tell you.
It's oh my god.
They don't have leads, so they don't really close games.
It says Trevor May is their closer on ESPN.com.
He's their highest paid player.
Wow. Okay. All right. So we're gonna have to manage expectations here.
So unbelievable though that like the A's are so bad and the Rays are so good, and it's just like money is like the name of the game, and and 9 out of the 10 contenders this year will probably all have hundreds of millions of dollars. But then there's the Rays, who are just unbelievable. And I think we should get the guys who run the Rays to like run the country. I think they should like if aliens came down and we needed an ambassador for the human race, I would send those guys. They're amazing. They work with so little, and they have the worst fucking stadium and the worst fans and all that shit, and they're just incredible.
They're
like
the
starts ever, right? With like run differential and all that shit.
Yeah, they're I think 1 win away from matching like a bunch of teams in terms of the best, and then they haven't played like world beaters, but like you just don't lose a game, right? And
there's
then
also no world they're the world beaters. Everyone else, I feel like the whole league is off to like a kind of like 500 start.
No, you're absolutely right. It's like the Dodgers are like hovering around 500, the Astros hovering around 500, Phillies are 4-8. Like
that's what's important to remember. It's like, are you canceling the season for all these other teams? Do you think the Phillies are done? Do you think the Astros are done? Like, it's frustrating.
Damn, Phillies are 4-8. I didn't realize that they have had.
Yeah, imagine if we were 4-8 right now. People would be literally killing themselves. It's crazy.
The Rays had, at least as of yesterday, they had more home runs than runs allowed, which is an absurd.
Because they're
that's a baller ass stat. They are a juggernaut.
They are like the real life version of like the Indians in the major league movies, where it's like you don't know any of their guys, but they're all fucking good. And then they get like these guys from the minors who become absolute superstars as well. It's a crazy thing. So I'm very happy we don't have to face them. And boys, you know what? I'm going to say it now. I'm all right with the Heim Bloom non-hire because everything worked out in the end, right? And he doesn't look so good in Boston, and they don't seem to miss him in Tampa right now.
You heard I was reading some beat reporters saying that guys were crying in the locker room the other day after the loss. It was like about the injuries and shit, but like he said the place was like a morgue right now. They are in bad. And you know what's so weird for them as a fan base? Like they probably got so used to World Series last place, that even when you had a bad year, you were like, well, we've seen this before, and we know how quickly you can turn it around. But then all of a sudden when that doesn't happen anymore, you're like, hang on a second, we're just the last place team right now.
I mean, they had to justify trading Mookie Betts. If he had come here, DeGrom would have been gone a long time ago.
Bro, that's one of the all-time, like if you're not going to keep that guy, then I don't know.
He's a Hall of Famer. That's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's like if you can't do they ever explain that? Like, other than
it was strictly a salary dump. They were wanting to get under the.
Yeah, that's why we know. But like, did they have a? What was
There's more of like he's never going to be the piece that we already have him and we can't win with him and we don't have enough of the money to put around him, so we're going to get rid of him and hopefully build. It was like new age Moneyball. Like he tried to reinvent the reinvention and they were like, that did not work.
I feel like if they got like 1,000 players for him and they all, it's also that the haul they got sucked, right?
It ended up being like Herschel Walker on the Cowboys, and like then you got the '90s Cowboys. Like, genius! You go to the Hall of Fame on that trade alone.
That Rudy Gobert trade, holy moly! That 4 first-round picks, like 4 players, 4 picks. That's an all-timer. And for a team like the Red Sox to do that, that's like when the Indians let Lindor walk. It's like, or traded him. It's like, you're not going to keep these guys, then what are you even in the business for? Like, you have a homegrown crown jewel shortstop, and you're still going to move him. But the Red Sox to do that, that's how they give that guy cares more about, I don't know, the soccer he owns.
Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, he got his 3 World Series or whatever. They they broke the curse and all that kind of stuff. And the Guardians fans are all like, Jimenez is awesome, which we watched Jimmy. We loved him. Never in a million years did I see this coming out of him. It still blows my mind.
Never. He's another one, dude. You got to look at the exact years, but I think he's only got 4 years till free agency. He's given up a fucking boatload of free agency years. Whatever. You're going to make $100 million. Who cares? But I just don't. I'll never understand how the owners have brainwashed these agents and players into thinking that it needs to be this way. It's like you can get paid now and later and not fucking sacrifice anything. These guys are billionaires.
Yep. And Phil, I saw you were kind of going at it with someone. I'm just going to put this out there now because we're talking prospects. I saw the whole Kalenic thing. I'm just letting everyone know this. This is like a scientific fact because I remember monitoring it. The year Diaz, I think it was 2019, where he just was getting killed every night. Every time Diaz blew a save or had a rough outing, Kalenic would hit a home run or go 3 for 4. His OPS in games where Diaz blew a save was like 1,000. It was crazy. Yep. Diaz out for the season, that powers Jarred Kelenic. It powers him like the sun powers Superman. I'm telling you right now, Kelenic is going to be a monster. He had the fucking scoreboard in Chicago or something.
If you're coming at me, it's like, oh, he's this good player now. 5 fucking years after he traded him. Were we supposed to sit around and wait for him?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I think something might have happened with social media where you feel like, you're on here every day talking about the same trades and players and teams that you don't feel like it's a long time ago. But that trade was a long fucking time ago, to the point that even if he's playing well now, we would have been moaning and groaning that Kelenic came up and sucked. He probably would have been traded somewhere else because he would have come up.
The Mariners tried to pull it when they had the chance. They could have dumped him to a Philly. If he's a good player in Seattle, so be it at this point.
Yeah. And also the fact that, obviously he's injured, but
Kevin gave us everything we needed last year.
That season alone was probably worth the trade, if you ask me.
Yeah, when you re-sign the guy to a $100 million deal, you're very happy with the guy you got. And again, I'll go to my grave saying, if the Wilpons were still here and Cano was still on the team, which he would have been, it would have been an anchor for the Mets to compete. But then Uncle Stevie came in, wiped that all away. And guess what? No offense to our good friends, our sister franchise out there in Seattle. If Jarred Kelenic's awesome and he becomes a free agent, Uncle Stevie will probably just bring him here. So I'm not going to fucking freak out about it. He's had his own issues with the Mariners front office, obviously. Those are publicized. So it's going to be all right. Fucking best part about West Coast trip, if you're fucking in it, you're fucking awake the whole time. You live and die with it. And if you want to just take a couple nights early, go to sleep, and you wake up in the morning and hopefully you feel good, it's almost like a spring training for fans still. We're still
getting into the season. Too? 2 things. One, this idea that you need to watch every game to prove to yourself and to the fans that you're a real fan. If you do, God bless you. If you don't, it's not, it's not the end of the world. 2, I really, really recommend, even if you're at home in front of a TV, pop on Howie every now and then. Not only because he's just awesome, but I was driving home listening to the Padres game. And, it was the 7th, 8th, and 9th. The bullpen was in. Had a lead, but not a big one. And what I love about Gary is he builds the tension and builds to the moment. And then that final strikeout of the third out of that inning is a big moment. But I'm like a ball of nerves in those spots always. And Howie will just be like, Canna backpedals onto the warning track, makes the one-handed catch, one away. Let me tell you about Bigelow T. And then, and the next out is, Tapper up the line, scooped up by Alonso. He'll keep it himself and two down. And it's just because it is just one inning out of one game out of 162 out of 10,000 that he's done. And so while we're like, every single pitch, it's important to remember that, like, the guys who really are in the game are like, yeah, this is not that big of a deal, guys. Like, calm down. So listen to the sweet, soothing sounds of Howie, and you'll maintain your sanity a lot longer this season.
I listened to Howie the other day. I'm trying to think of when it was. I was just outside, and it really does. It's a completely different experience. And I know we're on Apple TV coming up soon, right? When is that?
Not till June.
I thought we had one in April.
Well, we do have like a Fox or an ESPN coming soon.
Yeah, we have ESPN coming.
Pretty sure.
What's that?
Giants game next week.
Next week on April 22nd, Saturday is Fox at 4:05, and then ESPN at 7. We were thinking about maybe doing our We Gotta Believe broadcast that Sunday for people that don't want to listen to it. But either way, whether we do it or not, like, Howie, definitely get some Howie in your life. It kind of just, and I don't know, man. I just always think of driving with my car windows down on a sunny day, and Howie Rose. Like, you just need that to get this season going. So 3 against Oakland. Then we go against the Dodgers. We'll be back here on Tuesday unless we have any. I mean, I hope if we are doing an emergency podcast after an Oakland A's game, either something went really good or really bad. There's really no in between there.
Tell you, boys. Buckle up.
Hold on to your butts. And most importantly, gotta believe.
Gotta believe.
Gotta believe.